Alrighty, YouTube. So this is a project I'm kind of going to be working on. I was going to share on the internet. I haven't seen anything like this. Um, looking through the internet, there's nobody really showing how to do these chops. But to me, it looks pretty simple. But anyway, the plan is I'm going to chop down this machine. We're going to narrow it up and we're going to shrink it down as much as we can. The height I'm not too concerned about. It's just the width here because it's got to fit in my truck in a specific spot. Let's see. See if I can show you where it is. But truck's all messed up right now. But the plan is to put it there where I've got my classic 3 right now. The classic 3 where it runs good, welds good. It's an amazing machine, but it has a problem. It's only like 350 amp max output, and it does not look, or it does not have enough 220 voltage to run my line boring machines. So this one has a 50 amp 220 plug and the 4 110 plugs, which is nice. But a buddy of mine passed away about a year ago, or 2 years ago now, and he had a couple of these sitting in his field. And I brought this one home so far. I'll probably go back and get the other one too, just for parts. It runs, it welds too, but it's a Commander 300. This one here is a Commander, oh no, that one's a Commander 400. This is a Commander 500. So it's got a little bit more power. So I might as well cut this one down. They're about the same size. So, it doesn't really matter to me. The size wise, because they're about the same. This one's just got about 100 more amps to use. But when I brought this one back, this machine's only got about 2,000 hours on it. And it's in really good shape. It welds really good, but it has a problem. This board right here, as you can see, is bad. It's got, it overheated, but it's got a ground. It's got power going straight to the ground. Is what's going on with this. And so when it was all hooked up, with these wires going to it, it would pop the main breaker and it would shut the machine off, probably within 30 seconds of it running. So I talked to a buddy of mine. He's going to be able to build a new board for this and send it over, and should fix this problem. But I've got to check the solenoids, because I'm pretty sure the fuel solenoid is the culprit of why this thing shorted out. So we'll replace the fuel solenoid. I'm going to replace the high idle solenoid while we're at it. This machine just got serviced. I washed it off, but there was an hour, the next service on it was in 250 hours. So at like 2250, it was due for another service. The oil's spotless in this thing. But so the plan is, what we're going to do is we're basically going to take the fuel tank off. I'm going to build a new fuel tank. It'll sit right here. Basically we're going to go straight down from these rails here. The back here, we're going to leave this all alone. I'm going to just make this frame here straight down. We might cut this in just a little bit, but on my truck, there's a spot behind the cab where it widens out. and there's an old hydraulic tank there for the crane, the old crane that was on there. I've now got a new hydraulic tank that's under the bed, so that tank is kind of obsolete. So I'll pull that out, and then this will fit right there, you know, with no problem. I've just got to cut down basically here. I got to narrow it in. There is a fan to cool all the electrical components up here in the front, but it is right at the right width. So basically right here where this is, that's got to be the end, you know, the sides of the machine. So we'll basically have to move, you know, remove all this off right here, straight down. We'll cut the frame, weld in a new brace across the sides. All this has got to be redone, which is not a big deal. So basically, you know, they have all this kind of spread out, kind of crazy. You know, so, you know, we'll just move everything in. All the gauges, we'll do like the classics. There'll just be gauges here. This whole front panel is just going to be one flat front panel, like the classic, you know, design. Except for, you know, they have their leads go from the side, but these they'll be right here on the front, down low. And then everything will just be stacked. So this will be stacked here, that'll be there. This will come over to here, this over here, that'll go up. You know, the gauges will be this way. I don't know, maybe on the side. So, you know, it'll just be narrower is all. They made these machines stupid wide. You know, and then all the wires, we'll just run them either straight down and underneath the barrel and up, most likely, or we'll tuck them up underneath here, you know, up under this tray right here, so they'll come out straight behind here and up. So, but that's the plan, and we'll make a new fuel tank. The exhaust, I'm probably going to do something different with the exhaust, just because this exhaust is terrible and it's loud as it is. So if anybody's messed with the exhaust on a Deutz, let me know. I'd like to change that a little bit, and I'm thinking about making a different mount for this alternator, tucking it up under right here to just move it over a little bit. I'm not sure yet. We'll kind of see. I'll kind of play with it and see exactly how I can do that. But yeah, I mean, it's pretty straightforward. If you got any kind of fabrication skills, I mean, it seems a little daunting, but it's not too bad, honestly. There's not a lot going on here. It's just bundles of wire, dumb shit. But if you look in here, the engine mount's all the way in there, you know, so you're losing already, you know, 4 inches here. You know, the mount for the barrel is all the way over here for the armature. So, you know, everything's already kind of tucked in. You know, it's stuff like this exhaust that's, you know, sticking way out. You know, I saw one by Cross Trades where they just did straight pipe. You know, when they shortened one, they got rid of this muffler and they just had a pipe coming up straight, and they had 3 exhausts. That was kind of cool. They didn't show how how it sounded, but might be all right. Just do 3 exhausts coming up and out would be kind of cool. But and then this, you know, the fan's just got to suck in. So I'm thinking like the classic 2s that have the Deutz, they basically just have this pattern right here, and then, you know, this is just shaved off, so it sucks straight in, which would be just fine for mine. You know, and this is the only thing we can't really mess with because the machine or the engine tilts to the side. So this should all fit though. I don't think there's going to be much of a problem, you know. And then this, I think on theirs they ran the battery box up under here, and they used like I think he said like a Toyota Sienna battery or something, like a smaller battery that was skinnier. But the width isn't too much of a concern of mine. I've got plenty of length in there. It's plenty of length. It's the width. So, we could leave this just like this and just keep the battery there in the back to make it easier to get access to. And that's probably what we're going to do, because that's how it is on my machine. Just so I can get it out of there if I need to swap it out without having to pull the machine. But yeah, so I'm gonna get the rest of the sheet metal off, pull the top off, pull this piece off, and we'll start stripping it down. I'm probably gonna take it off this trailer and put it up on a stand in here, a rolling stand. That way I can move it around, because this is gonna be something I'm gonna work on as I go. I'm busy right now, so this will be kind of like today, where I got a job done early and I've got a day almost off, but I've got some walk-ins coming in later today for some little bullshit. But this will kind of fill those days, the weekends, until I get this done and kind of build a cool machine, that'll fit my truck perfect, and do what I need it to do. I've always kind of needed a little bit more gouging power. That Classic 3 worked really well, but it was always kind of on the cusp of, too small for what I needed. And then once we got into line boring last year, it was kind of the nail in the coffin for it. It couldn't keep up with the 220 output that I needed. So this one should do it, and it was basically free. I'm gonna have to pay $600 for that board, and then there goes another customer. But we'll have to pay that for the board, and then whatever little odds and ends come up. But for pretty much free 99, it's gonna be a good workhorse for me, I think. And I don't know, still kicking around the idea of selling the Classic 3 or keeping it. I mean, I absolutely love that machine. Most likely it's gonna stay here, but haven't decided yet. I don't want it to sit around and just rot, so too good of a machine for that. Might swap it out for my other smaller service truck. It's got a DLX on it, a Lincoln 300 DLX. Might swap it out for that. But again, that DLX has 50 amp 220 plug, so it's one of those things. You gotta kind of adapt with your business as it grows and changes. And right now the line boring game is taken off, so it's kind of priority. So we'll see. I'll bring you back once we get this thing all stripped down and start cutting it out. But we'll start making a big mess, pulling the fuel tanks and everything. That fuel tank is completely full of diesel, so there's like 30 gallons in that stupid tank. So we'll have to drain that, probably just put it in my truck or my other welder, and then get this thing cleaned up. So and it's kind of a good thing that she's an ugly little duckling, because all this sheet metal's coming off and going in the scrap bin. If anybody needs Commander 500 sheet metal, let me know, or else it's just gonna go into the old scrap bin. But we'll make another shorter video once we get this all chopped down, or once we get the sheet metal off and start cutting it. And we'll kind of bring you through the process of what I run into and what we do end up doing. But should be a fun little project. All right, so second video, we got it pretty much stripped down. Kind of see what we're dealing with now. We got the fuel tank out. All the sheet metal's torn off of it. Let's see, got the fuel out. So this is kind of what we're looking at. I've got on my truck, I've got a space, behind the cab and between the cab and the bed. I've that's 26.5 inches wide by 48 inches long. So if we go right on the edge of this solenoid over to the edge of the bracket on the alternator, we're right at 26 inches. So that'll give us a 1/2 inch. So what I'll have to do is roll this in all the way, this alternator. I'll get a shorter belt for it. Might even build a different bracket here so we can actually pick it up and move it up and in. And that might be actually the best bet. Give us a little bit more room, and then if we have to adjust the belt, we can. We still have room. You know, we're not just constantly having to buy new belts. And then I'm going to change this exhaust here. Not sure how yet. You know, it's pretty tight as it is. But I think we'll figure something out there just to squeeze it in just a little bit more. You know, as you can see, it's kind of a wonky little system. They've just got some rectangular tube, you know, 2x1 rectangular tube here going into this, you know, shop-made muffler deal. So we should be able to make something for this, get it in a little bit closer. And then this was the dilemma here in the front. So this is all the stuff off the faceplate, all your gauges and dials and everything is all this. I'm actually getting a new board built, brand new built, to replace this board. I bypassed it and did some welds with it. It welds pretty good. I'm not sure if I stated that on the last video or not, but yeah, we checked it, made sure everything worked, the plugs and everything. Made sure we didn't have any other issues going on. But everything seems solid. So I think what we're going to do actually here to get this back is I'm going to cut this down. So we'll cut it here, you know, and shorten it this way. And then we'll push it back. And then I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to take all this and pick it up and push it back right in front of this. And maybe put an electric fan on it, because right now it's got a fan that runs off the end of the armature. But the problem there is it's like an inch too long, you know, or too wide here. So I was thinking about taking this heat sink with I'm pretty sure these are chopper boards, and then it's got some solenoids, but take those and move them down and underneath, you know, so they're basically in line with this, and then raise this up, and that would work, but that's a lot of work. And, you know, I don't really want to mess, you know, with a lot of this, because I don't know if these are there for a reason other than just the cooling, and then might run into issues where, you know, the wires aren't going to reach, and we'll have to, you know, start monkeying with all that. Not sure if we want to do that yet. But I think what would be easier is if we just take that, put it here, put the board here, and then just build a tall fuel tank here for this. But it won't be a big fuel tank, but, you know, as long as I can get a couple of days of use. You know, the last fuel tank was massive. It's like 30 gallons. So we don't need that much fuel. You know, we probably only need maybe 15. Would get us probably 2.5 days of welding off of it, which is plenty. So I think that's going to be the plan. And then what I'll do is I'll just mount a fan on the front of this, an electric fan, to push air over it. And we should be good. Yeah, so we'll just mount a 12-volt fan on it. We'll leave that fan on there so it cools the armature. And then yeah, we'll just, you know, that block there will go here, this will go there, and we'll be good. So I'll bring you back once we start cutting this down. I've got to cut all this off basically straight with these brackets here. That's our frame here, because this is at like 20 inches. Do this one-handed here. This is, yeah, it's like 20 inches here from frame rail to frame rail. So yeah, we'll just mount it there and we'll be good. Okay, so this is what we're at, or where we're at now, what we came up with. So all this was right over here. Pulled it up, made this bracket, stuck it there. All the winding cables actually came up from the top. I'm going to bring them up from the bottom now. And I'm not sure if we got to keep this fan or not. Still kind of debating on that. But if it's got to stay, it's all right. But I do know that this needs a fan to cool it, so we're going to put a 12-volt fan from the back right here. I'll make a mount, an electric fan to cool this stuff off. And then we'll, on the side panels, they'll be vented. The board for the circuit boards are going to go right here. See if I can do this one-handed. So chop down the original circuit board. So it'll go like that. All the boards will go on it. And then I'm going to make a front panel for the top here with a mount. And it'll bolt on, and all my gauges and switches will be over here on this side. We'll put louvers, of course, here in the front so it can suck air through. And then I think what I'm also going to do is if I do leave this fan, this piece of sheet metal, I think what I'll do is actually cut it and angle it up so that air will go up into here. Help cool this area off some. But we still got to cut it off here. As you see the marks, cut all this off. Go through basically the whole machine and cut it off here, right at the edge of this. Just cut it straight off. On this side too. And yeah, getting there. But this is basically the overall length now. We're at 47 inches, like almost 46 here. So it's 48 with our panels on it. It's going to be about 48 inches. So once we get all this stuff chopped down and bolted on, I'm going to lift it up and we'll unbolt the drum and the motor, and then cut down the frame here. These two frame pieces, this whole skin will come out. We're going to make all new stuff here for that. And then of course all this is just all the switches and boards and stuff, so it kind of looks like a mess. We might have to lengthen some of this stuff a little bit, but everything should pretty much fit because, you know, we're going from way up here to up here, so everything should kind of fit. We might actually end up with some slack, but I do know, like, the positive terminal and the negative terminal, we're probably going to run new cables, because I want them, you know, that panel's going to be here, so I want them over here. You know, these don't have quite enough reach. So we'll have to put just a little bit more on them to get them to go right, which pretty sure these are just bolted under all this tape. And then which is no big deal, so we can just cut all that tape off, make a new one, and we can even route it down and around through here, come through the back of this panel and up to the face. But yeah, coming along. Okay, so this is where we're at. We got the whole thing unwired, you know, de-rigged. I don't know, I posted this, but yeah, we moved this up here. We made this bracket, moved all the heat sinks and chopper boards and everything up there. So we're gonna make frame, put a electric fan. I'm not sure if I'm gonna put 1 or 2 electric fans. I might put 2, one for this side, one for the other side. Might be a little bit better. I'm not sure yet. Let's see what I can find online. As far as electric fans go, with the highest CFM. But yeah, so everything's unhooked. Motor's all unhooked. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna unbolt the motor, unbolt the barrel, and then pick it up. We gotta unbolt this here too. And then we'll have to just put some lifting eyes on the motor and on the barrel and lift it straight up, because this won't be used really once I unbolt it from here, because it's connected to the frame. And then we'll pick it up, slide all this out, and then I'm gonna make a new frame out of some 4x4 square tube and some heavy wall angle. It's probably gonna be the best bet, and then trying to mess with this. And then we will start building back up all the sheet metal and everything, and the fun begins. It's not the tear down, it's the rebuild. So yeah, getting close. So this is what we're gonna end up saving off of this. The rest of this is gonna come off and go in the scrap. That shroud goes on the bottom here. If it'll focus, goes on the bottom here. And then I just cut off the 2 top mounts. Sorry for the hiccups there. So we just cut these off with the plasma. Makes pretty quick work of it. We just cut the welds with the plasma and then cut off where we need it, and this will all go away. And then what we'll do is we'll cut some 4x4s, quarter wall, and replace this with that quarter wall tube. And then we will put some angle iron on the bottom, on the bottom of this, of the 4x4, and on the side to tie them together. And this will be front and back box frame, if you will. It'll slide down into that. And then let's see, then once we get that on there, we'll have to build our brackets off of that, for the sheet metal. Basically we'll have to make this tray again, and go from there. So our angles will be the exact length of what we need. So it'll be 48 inches, and then this will be 26 inches wide overall. And then we'll just build up from there and start, put this back on it, mount it back on it, and then we can start building back up our sheet metal and everything, and then getting our faceplate and everything built up. So we still got to make a bracket like this that will bolt to our angle. We might salvage these, I'm not sure yet. I'm gonna cut these off just in case, these little brackets, because they bolt onto here. That's for the hoist pickup. So right now I'm just picking it up from the barrel and from the engine, you know, to this basket, you know, just to get it up off there, because you know, once you unbolt these, you can't use that lifting eye, of course. So you got to pick it up from the barrel and from the engine at the same time. So yeah, I'll bring you back once we got the frame. I'm gonna bring a rolling cart in here, and we'll put it on that, and that way we can get it up higher so it's not on the ground. We might put it on this table, I'm not sure. This table's a little high, but I'll look at my options here in a minute, see what we can do. But I don't want it on the ground. I want it a little bit more mobile. Okay, let's get this out of here. All right, so we got the new frame mounts built. So we just salvaged the old top piece here, and then made another support out of 4x4. Made the frame here, some angle we had, and then we just salvaged the old mounts, welded them back to the frame, heated these, bent them to the right angles, so they're in there straight now on both sides. As you can see, it's just barely clearing. So all this will just be a louvered front. Probably put some louvers on the side so the air blows out here. And then we still got to weld these tubes to the angle. And then the back here, as you can see, we've got maybe an inch here. So this back plate will come up. This will all be louvered in here and on the side here, because the air blows or goes through the fan there and blows out here. So we'll have some louvers here. But yeah, starting to go back together now. We just got to trim this down, basically from here to that point there, or actually, yeah, so right there. Trim it off. Everything will fall in between. I was thinking we were gonna have to move this alternator, but I don't think so. I think it's gonna fall right on the inside, so we'll be good there. Our muffler is going to be good. It's on the inside. Won't have to do anything there. And then again, we'll just have to trim it. So trim from that little notch there straight up. Just trim it straight off. And then we'll have to make another tab like this. You know, we might even actually use that one, so that our sheeting will bolt onto that. And what else? I was gonna make a bracket. So the crazy thing is, these machines, the only thing that's basically, when you pick these up with your eye, all your force is being transferred to these two little 3/4 bolts here to pick up, you know, 1,800 pounds. Yeah, that's pretty brave. So I'm gonna put a bracket from here straight down. We'll weld it to the frame. And then I think I'm gonna put another gusset here, you know, coming down over and then down to kind of spread that force out. Still haven't decided if I want to put a little tack weld there or not, but I mean, that's how they designed it. Should be fine, but yeah, it's just a little nerve-wracking. All on this like little 1/8" plate that they've got. Interesting. So anyway, and then we'll start getting the fan shroud back in and everything else back on. Start buttoning it up, put our board mount on there, and then we got to make a face plate for it. And I still got to build the fan shroud for the fans, and then basically just rewiring it, running all the wires back. I labeled everything. You know, everything's got a label so it's just kind of easy to go back together. That's I highly recommend if you're going to do something like this, even if you're working on equipment or your own personal truck or whatever, and you take stuff off. I've done this since I was in college, so it's always worked out very well for me. Just some painter's tape and a Sharpie, and just label everything. Even if you think you know what it goes back to, you get distracted or busy or whatever, and end up getting back to this project in 6 months. You're never going to remember where all this stuff goes. So this way, even if you get hit by a train, someone can put this back together, type of an idea. So yeah, bring you back once we get some of the paneling back in, some more of the gussets. This is the fan shroud. I'm going to fix it and cut this down.
Don't forget to like and subscribe, people.
Where it needs to be.
Thanks
stick
for
it
watching.
in there.
Part 2 will be out
We'll
soon.
go from there.